This tutorial will cover changes that will be seen after the upgrade to Meditech on Wednesday, June 30th. The most significant changes are seen with the provider documentation screens. There's we call it a burger button next to the title of the document, and that, when you click on that, you see options that were currently available over on the right-hand side of the screen under a gear icon. So cancel document, create new typical, add content are all options that you would see currently over there on the right-hand side. There is a new option to switch document that if you decide you've opened the wrong document, you can choose switch document and pick a new option. It will cancel the current document that you might have started. It will not save the data. You would still have to start over from brand new. I'm going to not switch that. And then across the top of the screen, there are some revised buttons. The preview button was currently available. It was a small icon to the right-hand side of the title. It's now the preview button. It shows you what the document would basically look like as you are finishing it. The rapid entry button is a different view of each of the sections of a document. It might be used if you are setting typicals for the first time. It opens up each section, shows each section. They are all collapsed, and you could expand them. It will show all parts of the document rather than the collapsed version that is done in the review and refine. As I wait for this to open, again, this may not be used very often, so we have chosen to default to the review and refine view. This shows every single button or response. I can then again click to collapse or expand. So the default will always be into the more collapsed version of the sections. You can switch back and forth as desired. The typicals button that is here at the top is if there are typicals set for the entire document. As you can see, there might be typicals set per section, and then you will use the typicals button that is set there. The save and the sign buttons are the same. To save and draft, you click the save button. To sign as a final document, you would click the sign button. This button here would allow you to collapse all of the sections. There is not a corresponding expand all. So if you do choose that button, then you would have to collapse each option one at a time. You can also click on these headers to get to a different section as needed. All of the headers or sections can be clicked on to collapse individually. So that is pretty much the same. It's a little more, before these were like blue colored headers, and it wasn't always clear where you should click. So basically, whenever you see the arrow or the chevron, that will expand or collapse. And the same thing with collapsing on, it's more noticeable in an exam section or the review of systems section where you have these basic options. And just to show you, I've expanded that part of the exam section, and you can see these are the choices that were chosen. If I want to see all of the choices, I click on the word of that subheader, and I can see these are the ones I've selected, and I can make any changes here. To go to the next section, I would either click on the name. Tab does not work here. I can click outside of the box if I just want to get rid of, if I'm satisfied with the choices I've made here. Any of the narrative boxes can be the narrative can be done by placing the cursor in the text box. You can go through each section, and then as I expand the next subheader of the exam section, it collapses the one before it. Scrolling down to the assessment and plan section, which has a few changes. The add problem button is a little more intuitive. It is currently a plus sign in problem, but it does bring up the same overlay, looks the same as the current problem list. The ranking of the problems can be done right here from the section by clicking on the number. You can change the order of the rank or the rank of the problems. Each assessment and plan section now includes a narrative section at the bottom. In some cases before that, there were, in the current version, we had sometimes added a narrative because it wasn't always as clear. There wasn't one added. So we will work on removing any duplicate narrative sections because this one will always be available at the end of the assessment and plan section. If there is text that is added to the assessment and plan narrative, then there will be an asterisk that appears on the add problem button. So you can be aware, and that will recall if that setting is set in your document. A couple other buttons that are not necessarily new, but just more visible. One is the add content button, not used very frequently, but it would give you the option to add a section. This is usually used if you're adding an addendum section, but you can add other sections. If you're interested in learning more about that, please contact the provider support team. I'll give the number at the end of this recording. You could search for a section and add it manually if you wish. And the view previous, I'm going to use a different example here. The view previous allows you to look at maybe different text that might have been entered in that section for a previous visit. You can see I clicked on the arrow to go back and forth to the different visits. We have a current enhancement request in with Meditech to allow providers to recall that data into the section, but for now that would have to be copied and pasted. To get out of that box, you have to click outside of the box. That is the summary of the documentation changes. There is a few other options that I wanted to show with a different patient. There's a message that sometimes comes up, and I just wanted to show informational. This message is only informational. It happens when maybe a previous document has been deleted, and we are again working with Meditech to possibly get rid of that message because it's not really telling you any valuable information. And I'm going to actually delete this document. Go back to my previous patient. There are two more items to show. One is a possible difference. If you enter the problem list from the reference region and you see this message, external data available, that means that there has been a continuity of care document with data that has been shared through our health information exchange. And it is bringing in any problems or other information that have been shared through other visits at other organizations in our region. You can see that when you open this, there's this header, external problems to be reconciled, and then there is a list of problems. These can be just viewed. You don't actually have to take any action. You can choose a problem to add to your problem list. It may be a duplicate, and if it is, it will tell you that. You could discard it, or you could just collapse this header. And then you can see the rest of the problems are right there. I just wanted to show that different view. If you open the problem list from the assessment and plan on a section, this header will be there, but it will be collapsed. So the only place that you will see it expanded like that is from the reference region, or if you do click on the history and problems section, the problem list from here, you will also see the that expanded list of the external problems. There's also one final change in the ordering section. In the previous view and the current view, there are right here at the top, there are 3 buttons. Now that's consolidated to 2. The button that it currently shows favorites, orders, and sets. Now it has all 3 of those choices here under this button. And then when you select one or more of those, you have the ability to sort accordingly. It does not impact your favorites that will default when you enter orders. It also does not impact the search function that it will function exactly the same as currently. It does just change the view a bit at the top of the ordering section. This concludes the tutorial for changes that will be noted with the Meditech update on Wednesday, June 30th. To contact the provider support team, you can call extension 3000, or from outside the hospital, call 364-3000.